In today's video, we have the latest trade talk around the league. Today, we're looking at the Edmonton Oilers and the Ottawa Senators, as well as some of the latest rumors around Patrick Kane and where he may land upon his return to the NHL. We also have lots of other training camp news, including some news from the NHL waiver wire, some update on some players, on some PTOs, and plenty injury updates as well. All that coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned earlier in the first video, as you can see, I'm on the road today, not at home in my normal recording location. So you're going to be getting a couple of videos today from a hotel room here as we're on the road. But I'll be back tomorrow, so it won't be long before you see normal videos here again. But lots of news here today. Unfortunately, late yesterday, of course, we talked a few days ago about the update on Chris Snow, the AGM of the Calgary Flames, who has been suffering and dealing with the effects of ALS for the past 4 to 5 years, that he was basically in the hospital and was not going to be waking up because he was he had suffered a traumatic brain injury after going into cardiac arrest. Now we can confirm, unfortunately, Chris has indeed passed away. We knew it was just a matter of time after his wife Kelsey's post a couple days ago. But again, the condolences are pouring in from all over the place. You can tell the effect that Chris had on so many people. The reason that they kept him going in the hospital as long as they did, because he was going to be an organ donor, and he was able to get organs to, I believe she said it was 4 people that they were helping save. So even in, not only in life but in death, he was very inspirational, very heroic, and trying his best to help other people, even when it how it affected him. They made this diagnosis about awareness and live it very publicly when most people would want nothing but privacy. So certainly want to offer our condolences to Kelsey and his 2 children, Cohen and Willa. They're quite small. They're still fairly young. And like I said, I can only imagine what they've been through, knowing at a young age that they weren't going to have their dad for very long. But everybody has had such amazing things to say about Chris. Of course, I never knew him personally, but I've been following his story for a long time. And I feel like I know him just because of how publicly they lived and how much they shared through social media. An infectious smile, and just a wicked smart guy. Had a major effect on the Flames organization, and it's a huge loss to the Flames. It's a huge loss, obviously, to his wife and kids, and just the hockey community in general. So again, condolences to Chris Snow's family and friends and everybody affected. Just a terrible loss, and to an absolutely unfair and terrible disease. And I hope someday they can figure out a cure, because it's just not fair what it does to people at all. Lots of other news around the league today, including a couple of updates on some PTOs. Alex Chaisson, who's had pretty good luck and been going on 1-year deals or PTOs for the last number of years, unfortunately today was cut by the Boston Bruins. He was in camp with them, so Chaisson won't be getting a contract there, so I'm not sure if any other teams will express interest. But at this point, he's back to being a UFA, and no dice with the Bruins. Brandon Sutter was also released from his PTO with the Oilers, but I believe that was more so on his own doing. Sounded like he kind of came to the conclusion after giving it his best effort that he just really wasn't healthy enough to really make to do his best and to really stand the best chance. So they've ended the PTO and he's decided to retire. I mean, to me, it looks like he's unfortunately a victim of long COVID. I mean, he's been dealing with that for a couple of years. After being along for so long, I can imagine how hard it was for being away. But at the end of the day, it's just too much for him to come back. And he's realized the importance of just going home to look after his health and having family time. As I mentioned in the earlier video, we had lots of news on waivers. 45 players on waivers today. Only a couple I want to mention here. Just some notable names I think have a chance to be claimed tomorrow. That include a couple of Canucks, Jack Rathbone and Vasily Podkolzin. A couple of young guys there that could be impactful elsewhere given the right opportunity. At this rate, I know Canucks fans are probably disappointed in Podkolzin's progress, but he's a high pick and hasn't worked out. I wonder if another team would give him a chance just because the fact he was such a high pick. Obviously, there was a lot of talent that was observed when he was in that 18-year year. So I wonder if about him, a couple guys in LA, guys like Fagemo, Simo Fagemo, Jacob O'Vrare, I wonder if they could be given opportunities elsewhere if they're picked up. And actually, one more PTO update as well. Peter Holland, who's been away from the game for some time as well, has been in camp with the Avalanche. He was advised that he can continue his PTO and then be assigned to their AHL camp. Doesn't sound like a deal is guaranteed, but it sounds like there's interest to sign him to an American Hockey League deal, or at the very least continue on in training camp there to see if that's for sure what they want to do. They gave him a little bit of time to think about it since he wasn't going to make the NHL, and he has accepted. So I guess he'll continue on his PTO, and it's possible he may. I don't know if they'll give him a two-way deal or if it'll just be an AHL only deal. If he gets signed at this point, I think they're going to wait a little while to make a firm decision on that. But at least it's still a possibility. I know with some injury updates, we saw a gruesome situation in the Blackhawks game last night. Hawks prospect Samuel Savoie went hard into the boards, legs first, and you could tell it didn't look good at all. They had to get the stretcher out with the medics, and I had a feeling he might have a broken leg or a broken ankle or something. They didn't specifically say, but it is said that he had surgery on his right femur, so I'm assuming he did break his leg in that part of it, which is absolutely brutal. Tough injury, gruesome injury. I don't know how long exactly the recovery will be for him, but it'll be significant for sure. So that youngster, at least we know he's okay, and then they were able to correct what they needed to via surgery and what have you. But yeah, they haven't released a timeline for him. But you could tell it was one of those things as soon as it happens that you just had a bad feeling in your stomach and you just knew it was bad. And exactly what they confirmed here. Today, another injury update. Ilya Mikeyev, who's been out with the Canucks, is not going to be able to play during the preseason. He is progressing, I guess, according to Rick Tocchet, but not to the point that he's going to get into any preseason action. At this point, it's not clear if he'll be ready for opening night or if his return may be delayed a little bit further. We'll have to stay tuned on that one. Some big updates and rumors around the return of Patrick Kane. Of course, he's going to be getting a ton of interest around the league, and the latest interest updates and rumors comes from TSN. I think it was TSN 690. Pierre McGuire was talking about his sources. Now, hard to say how reliable Pierre McGuire's sources are, but he certainly is a well-connected guy after working in the league before, multiple teams, and having a long broadcasting career. But he said his sources indicated that there's 3 Atlantic Division teams that are all eyeing the situation and have varying degrees of interest. And those 3 teams include the Maple Leafs, the Sabres, and the Red Wings. Obviously, there was some talk before, which I wasn't sure how serious it was, and I guess time will tell, around the Red Wings, a possible reunion with DeBrincat now that he's there, because obviously they played together and had such good chemistry in Chicago. But again, hard to say. I don't know if Kane's main objective here is just to have fun and be productive, or if he really wants to win a Stanley Cup. My guess is that he wants to win, and I don't know that Detroit's going to be able to offer that to him, at least not yet. Buffalo and Toronto would be a little bit better positioned for that. Toronto would be the best amongst the 3. Of course, cap-wise, it's going to be tricky. I don't know what he would need or want for a contract, but Toronto's especially capped out, whereas they need to make a move just to become compliant for opening night. That's going to be tricky enough, let alone bringing in a new body on top of that. The Sabres do have some space. They could probably give him something on a 1-year deal. I don't know how much he would want. That's the thing. After a major surgery, I'm thinking he's going to have to take a cheaper salary for at least 1 year. And if he's really productive and can get back to anywhere close to what he was before, I'm sure next year he can sign for much more. But yeah, those are the 3 teams that are currently in the rumor mill with regards to DeBrincat. It's hard to say where he's going to end up exactly, but obviously Kane, because there's different interests. We've heard before about him wanting to play with Matthews. We've heard him wanting to get back with DeBrincat. Buffalo's his hometown, so there's different reasons in every city. So I don't know. If his main objective is to win a Stanley Cup, though, you would think if those were the only 3 teams, that the Leafs would be the main one. They'd probably be furthest along in that respect, but we'll have to wait and see. I'm sure there won't be the only teams at all that are interested, but if he wants to stay, East Coast, anywhere closer to home, where he's from the state of New York, and obviously he's been rehabbing and training in Toronto too, so I don't know if that means anything. We'll have to wait and see. A few other things to look at here. The Edmonton Oilers, their talk from Sportsnet's Mark Spector saying that he can see them trading young defenseman Philip Broberg. Maybe not immediately, but throughout the season as the Oilers look to make upgrades. Of course, this is another year for them, and the Oilers are at a point where they kind of consider it Stanley Cup or bust. So if they don't win the Cup, they don't look at it as being a successful season. They're at that point. They've got some of the top players in the game. They've won multiple rounds, multiple years, and without going all the way, they just feel like they're having an unfulfilled, opportunity potential there, which you do understand, right? And they're definitely going to bulk up at the deadline. There's no doubt. And he feels that Broberg just hasn't done enough and shown enough of improvement to really, get a good enough long-term look with the team that he can see them being using him as trade bait to make upgrades as the season goes along. We'll have to wait and see. I know the goaltending is going to be huge with the Oilers. They really need Jack Campbell to bounce back, or they're definitely going to be in the goaltending market as well. I don't think they're going to have a short leash with Campbell. If he bounces back and he's doing fine and they're winning games, okay, no problem. They'll continue on. But if he has some shaky starts like he did last year and things aren't looking good the first couple of weeks, I wouldn't be surprised if they hit the market and try to figure out a way to get some reinforcements in there, because even Stuart Skinner can't do it all by himself. He showed that last year. Good goalie, but he needs help, and if you can't get it from Campbell, it's got to come from somewhere else for sure. Now in Ottawa too, there's still more talk around the Shane Pinto situation. I know yesterday we talked about the latest info from Elliot Friedman that they offered him a 1 year, $1 million deal, and he was disappointed and all that, and that's all true and fine and dandy, but essentially Bruce Garriock expanded on this today in the Ottawa Sun, and I do agree with his synopsis here, basically saying that essentially they already had other conversations, other negotiations in place where the gap was shortening and getting smaller, and it sounds like they just went back and said, hey, is there any way you would do a 1 year, $1 million deal, kind of help us out because we can get you into camp now instead of waiting. And then we can't negotiate an extension right away, but in January when we can, they kind of do them a solid at that point and pay maybe a little bit more and get maybe a 2 year, 1 to 2 year extension in place with maybe a little more money. Then so trying to basically, pay him a little less now and a little more later when they have more cap room, and he didn't want to do that, which you don't blame him. I mean, his agent also, you got to remember Louis Gross is his agent. Louis Gross has numerous clients that have been notorious for sitting out and not backing down. Like he's the agent for William Nylander. We saw that drag out till December almost right to the 11th hour. We've seen him represent Johnny Gaudreau, and that's gone late. We've seen Rasmus Sandin's another one of his clients. That went right till, I believe it was right at the very end of training camp. Like, this is the notorious Louis Gross training and negotiating tactic. So, I don't think there's really anything to be concerned about here. We've also seen the Sens go through this before with Brady Tkachuk a couple of years ago. He signs on, I think it was the eve of the season. Even way back, if you've been a long-time Sens fan, you remember at one point in the 90s, late 90s, Daniel Alfredsson even was at the point where he was frustrated with the general manager, asked for a trade. It never happened. They soon came to terms not long after, and he got into the season a little late, and the rest is history. So it doesn't really mean anything. Neither side's looking for a trade right now. The Sens are not looking to move him. He doesn't want to be moved. If they do move anybody, it's going to be somebody else. There's still lots of talks going on about a few different players that they're looking to move to make the space, whether it be maybe Joseph. I know Brandstrom's name's been up there too. But there is talk that they could try to create some extra cap space by going with a smaller roster as well. Instead of going with a 23-man roster on opening night, maybe they scrunch that down to 20 and try to create some cap space that way. It might mean some other players that might have thought they were going to make the roster going to the minors or maybe even needing waivers. In some cases, you're probably looking at guys like maybe Parker Kelly or Zach McEwen, Bernard Docker, any of these kind of fourth-line players or fringe players that as much as they'd like to have them, they just can't afford it right now. So we'll see what they decide to do. That's all your news and notes for tonight. So let me know your thoughts on all today's news and rumors down in the comments. We'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with the latest news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.